the music, like, that seems like such a weird nitpick, but it really took me out of certain scenes.
Drive-by movies you're watching.
Fresh releases.
My name's Blaze.
And I am James.
And this week we're watching The Five Bloods.
Our people.
Hold on!
In my line of work, I have to be very careful. And that means knowing exactly who I am in business with.
The Five Bloods is the new film from Netflix, and it is a Spike Lee joint. It stars Delroy Lindo, Jonathan Majors, and Clark Peters.
So, The Five Bloods is about 4 African-American vets who battle the forces of man and nature when they return to Vietnam, seeking the remains of their fallen squad leader and the gold fortune he helped them hide. I did really enjoy this movie. Overall, I just felt like it's a little long. That's about the gist of it for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, yeah, a couple of gripes aside, like, I definitely want to, like, praise everything that I loved about it. And so I haven't seen a Spike Lee film in a while. I wanted to get around to seeing The Black Klansman, but I didn't get a chance. But Do the Right Thing was one of the first movies I ever watched in a film class, and absolutely loved that one. I mean, it's a classic amongst all film lovers and filmmakers. And there was a lot of technical stuff I loved about this movie, too, like some of the shots. It is a little long, and my only complaint, I guess, also, if I had to get away, is really just the music choice within the movie. I thought it didn't, like, fit some of the scenes that was going on. We can get into that more in thorough later, but the performances are what carry this movie overall, I'd say. Delroy Lindo, I don't think I've ever seen PTSD, like, captured as... I haven't seen too many war movies, or post-war movies, but I think his interpretation of, like, PTSD is, like, just one of the most haunting, like, things I've ever seen. It's just so well done, and, like, you just feel bad watching his character develop, because even though they're all friends, they all have different ideologies, but seeing how different he is amongst his friends, like, it was just, like, captivating to watch throughout this 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like his performance, more specifically, was just so... Like, there were parts that were gut-wrenching, like, especially the relationship with his son and the relationship with the guys that he's kind of, grown apart from. He's now this, MAGA hat-wearing character, and, feels like he's been wronged. And he's, gravitated towards, like, that Trump kind of character. So it was interesting to see him... struggle with his PTSD, but also, struggle within his relationship with these 5 guys who have grown apart. And also his relationship with his son, who he's really grown apart from his son. Like, they're basically 2 entirely different people, but, they still love each other. They're father and son. And it was interesting to see these very different kind of divided relationships that we, always see in the news and always hear about, and some of us experience on our own. But to see it, like, on, I guess, I can't say the big screen because we watched it at home, but to see it on, something that's, really mainstream, and seeing it explore these kind of interesting themes that we, tackle every day, it was, like, I felt like that part was really well done by Spike Lee.
Yeah, for sure. Every character is going through their own, like, whether they don't have money or, like, one, was rich and lost their money at one point. But definitely also another character I don't want to forget about is Jonathan Majors. Just, like, even though, like, he doesn't have the most chemistry with his dad in the movie, that's what the movie calls for, essentially. Just seeing that interpreted on screen was just, like, it was sad to watch, but I thought those were, like, some of the best moments in the movie, and just seeing how he gets along with all his, like, father's friends, and then meeting these French youngsters, like, out there in Vietnam, trying to defuse these landmines that are still spread there since the Vietnam War. So, like, it was just cool to see, like, his different, like, personas and mindsets towards different characters throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. Something I did like about the idea of these characters that were, there to kind of diffuse these landmines, and then landmines becomes such like an important part of the movie. And like, were you dreading this? You knew the landmine scene was coming, I would assume, right?
Right
I
when
think
they
everyone's
right when they got to the gold, once I started hearing those metal detectors, I was like, oh god, one of those is going to be a landmine, and like it didn't happen, so I kind of forgot about it. But that first scene where they discovered the gold, and then it ended up being fool's gold in the bin, but they still found more gold, of course. But I was just like, oh, landmines coming up in this scene. They brought that up for a reason. Like that's something going into a movie I would never think about visiting Vietnam. Like, I mean, now I know and stuff, and just like, but it was like haunting to watch. And when it actually happens, it's as horrific as it can be, but then it just gets worse. And I think that's the strongest scene in the movie, where the father's trying to rescue Jonathan Majors from, after stepping on a mine.
Yeah, and that just kind of that intensity, that anxiety that it gives you, because like what, I don't think it's like ham-fisted, and I don't think it's heavy-handed, but it's just that that is coming. Like there's going to be a pivotal moment in the movie where they're having to deal with mines. They're going to a war zone that they had once fought in, and there are mines that are not diffused there, and those mines have ruined people's lives for generations after the war had already been fought. So it is like an important thing that you don't really think of, like the destruction and damage that war kind of leaves like on the people, like past generations past like the war actually being fought. So I mean, let alone the characters in this movie that are struggling with the PTSD and their the generations that they have after them that have to deal with the repercussions of war as well. So I thought that just not being a war, this isn't really a war, it's kind of a war movie, but then at the same time it's not really, like the main plot does not take place during a war. It's just that they use the war as like context to why they're there, to try and find this gold, also to get Storm and Norman's remains, and then continue the plot along. But it is just it just that anxiety that the mines bring, I felt was really intense. But the one thing I have to say, like about the mines, I just felt like there was literally no logic to the mines at all. That it was they're kind of convenient in a way. Like there'd be people that would just walk like carelessly and then not hit a mine, but then someone who had like a metal detector would then hit a mine or so. Like I just felt like sometimes the mines were a convenient plot device. Like especially in like some of the battle or action sequences, that it just didn't, I don't know if it made sense. Like I think one person like hit a mine that was on a road already, and it's like I don't think there would have been a mine there, like especially in, I don't know.
I thought they were fine. There was only really just 3 mines that we saw, and 2 people died from them, of course. But yeah, I mean, I personally, and then of course there's the grenade scene at the end, but that was separate though. But yeah, it was just a nitpicky thing, but for me, like especially that second guy who dies on the mine, I just felt like I just felt like there wasn't going to be a mine there. But something that I do want to bring attention to was how they use different formats of film in this movie to, tell the story. You have, that 4:3 format that tells all the previous war footage, and it's, matches up perfectly with the documentary footage that you saw in the news from the Vietnam era. And then you have, when they go to Vietnam, it's, a very anamorphic, cinematic frame. And then I think that's 2-3-5-1. And then also when they get off and they're looking for the gold, it goes back to 16:9 frames. So I thought little things like that were really interesting. There's a really pivotal scene where Delroy Lindo is having PTSD, and it's like his flashback, but then it goes into his modern day when some guns are fired. I thought that was a really powerful edit, and overall I did really enjoy the movie. I felt like it was extremely powerful, especially with the moment in history that we are in which now. So right. I have to say, like, I would recommend people checking it out. I did find it really interesting. Yeah. Going back to just the one thing I didn't like about the movie was just the music. Like, that seems like such a weird nitpick, but it really took me out of certain scenes. Like, the first big epic, like, war scene we get felt too much like an action sequence. Whereas like war, you know, is supposed to be like this disgusting, terrible thing. It was like trying to like sense that they're like a sense of like how close they are as best friends and the brotherhood that they have and everything, and just how close they were and how great of a leader Chadwick Boseman's character was. But just the music sounded like it was some like epic masterpiece, like, oh, they're gonna get the job done, they're gonna survive and come out. It just really took me out. And there were a couple other scenes like that where like, oh, this is a sad moment, let's do some over the top sad music and stuff. So like those were like kind of grabs I had. Like I'm not sure who the composer was, but not that it's like bad music by any means. It just felt too by the book wise, and just that one specific scene, the first introduction we get into them in the Vietnam War, I just thought like just didn't fit the pacing and style of the actual movie. But I think my favorite parts of this movie, though, is just every scene that takes place in the modern era, them going back to Vietnam, them coming together, but then also drifting away into different personas and different ways of life and stuff. And, you know, just like friendship isn't always meant to be forever, no matter how close you are. It's like get a sense of family. You love them no matter what, despite your differences. And thought it captured that very well. And yeah, definitely recommend for people to check out. It's one of the better movies I've seen this year. It's probably in my top 5 currently.
Mm-hmm. Sad thing though was this movie was actually supposed to premiere at Cannes, and it was like the first Netflix movie since they banned Netflix films from Cannes.
Jeez.
So I think Okja was like the last movie from Netflix at Cannes, and that caused a huge stink. Then, you know, Bong Joon-ho goes on to make Parasite, not with Netflix, you know, gets an Academy Award, and Cannes opens its gates to Spike Lee with this film. But as we know, Cannes didn't happen this year. So it's kind of interesting that this film, it's kind of sad like that this film didn't open up at Cannes. It would have been a huge moment for Spike Lee. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's pretty well received, and when I watched it last night, it was number 1 on Netflix. So glad to see. Like, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen Spike Lee movies, but I'm just glad that he's having this such high resurgence with Black Klansman and now this movie.
Our people. Hold on!
In my line of work, I have to be very careful. And that means knowing exactly who I am in business with.
thanks for watching, guys, and we always appreciate the support. One of the best ways to support the show is leaving us a comment below and letting us know what you thought of Da 5 Bloods.
And if you haven't already, please smash that like button. That helps us out too. And if you haven't, subscribe and hit that notification bell to get all our latest updates.
That's it for this week. Tune in next week for a brand new, fresh releases.